For those of you who don't know me well, my name is Aubrey Warren, and I have a husband named Jacob. And if you know Jacob well, you'll know that Jacob hates to see animals in cages. Like, he hates to see animals in cages so much that he doesn't even like to go to the zoo. Like, it makes him so profoundly sad to see animals in cages. So anytime our kids want to go to the zoo, it's always me who takes our kids to the zoo. And so Jacob, my husband, hates seeing animals in cages. So much so that when we adopted Sterling, Sterling was our Malamute Husky mix that we had for 10 years. When we adopted Sterling, Sterling was 1 year old, and he was this wild, high energy puppy. And Sterling got into everything. If you have ever had a puppy, you know how puppies get into everything. And if you've ever had a husky or anything that has that wolf mix in with them, they're problem solvers and they love to get into everything. And I really struggled with Sterling when he was a puppy because he was so destructive, and everybody kept telling me, Aubrey, you need to crate him. You need to crate train him. You need to crate train him. You need to crate train him. Because my whole thing was, he has this huge coat on him. Like, I can't just put him outside. I have to let him be inside while I'm gone because it's too freaking hot in Texas. Like, I can't just leave him outside. Like, I can't do that. And so everybody's like, you need to crate train him so when you get home, your house isn't destroyed. So we got a crate. And I tell you what, like, the way Jacob feels about animals in cages was amplified even more when we got Sterling, because Sterling hated his crate so much. Like, when we would go to push him in his crate, he would literally, like, what we would call dig in, where he'd put his paws out in front of him and he'd put his head down and he'd dig in, and you couldn't move him for anything when Sterling would dig in. He did not want to go in that crate at all. So what was our option? Well, our option was that we ended up getting a pool outside for Sterling. So not a big pool, like a metal old school pool. So he would have a place to wade in it whenever he got hot. So we ended up getting a pool outside for Sterling. Sterling would rather be outside in 100 degrees in his huge fur coat than be in a cage. So all of Jacob's thoughts and so on about caging animals were solidified with Sterling. However, fast forward, Sterling died about we had to put him down in the fall, which was one of the hardest things we've ever done as a family. But after his death, Jacob wanted a new puppy, and so we got Jadis. So Jadis is this husky shepherd mix who is like Sterling, where she's completely high energy, completely destructive. And she's totally been tearing up everything. I mean, it has been so many growing pains around this house. She has been in trouble so many times that it's been ridiculous. So finally my husband was like, you know what? I've had it. I'm going to get out Sterling's old crate and we're going to start to crate Jadis, thinking that it was going to be the same sort of a thing that we had with Sterling, where he hated it so much he would do anything but to be in that crate. But at this point, she has torn up so many high dollar things around our house, and it's just been so ridiculous that we're like, we can't not have her in her crate anymore. So here's the interesting thing, guys. Jadis likes her crate. Jadis doesn't fight to go in her crate. She has this really interesting energy of feeling really safe in her crate. Like, when can't find Jadis anywhere around the house, she's laying in her crate and she feels this comfort in her crate. And this has brought up a really interesting awakening within me. So I don't know about you, but when I was on the beginning of my spiritual evolution and awakening, and was starting to dig into new philosophies and new ideas. Like, I wanted everyone in my life to be on that journey with me. I felt like there was this heightened sense of freedom that I had never experienced before. And I wanted everybody to have that taste of that freedom and that joy and that expansiveness that I was feeling as I started to look at life in new ways than I had ever looked at them before. And I remember like it being a real big struggle. So it's the same thing with your spiritual evolution, with your fitness evolution, with your nutritional evolution. You start to find ways that are starting to free you from old patterns that were destructive and weren't positive for you, and you want to share them with everybody because there's this new sense of freedom and enlightenment that you're experiencing that you want everybody to have. And so it's really, really easy when we start on this journey of freedom and awakening that we can find it really disheartening and really depressing when those around us want to stay what we consider stuck where they are, not growing, not changing, not seeing that heightened sense of freedom. However, there's this teacher that I've discovered recently. His name is Rob Bell. And Rob Bell has given me a lot of new ways to look at things. And I want to share with you something that Rob Bell says is what we see is the cage for so many people. That was the cage that we were living in, can actually be a space of security and comfort for someone else. So of this experience of watching Jadis feel so comfortable in a space that Sterling would have done anything, would have fought tooth and nail to get out of, and Jadis feels it so comfortable. It's really awakened me to the idea of that it's time that we all stop judging other people's paths and what they find comfort in and what they find security in. But because what may seem completely confining and restricting to me personally may be that cozy, safe, sweet spot for somebody else. So my desire to help someone else find this new path, what is invigorating and freeing to me, may be way too much for that person. So it just goes to show that no way is the right way for anyone, or for anyone and everyone. And so it's all about, first of all, trying out so many different ways of doing things to figure out what feels the most comforting and the most free for you individually. And then letting go of our need to force what works for us on anyone else. Because from the outside, it may look like they're in a cage, but from inside, they may feel safe and secure. And when you feel safe and secure is when you feel like you have the ability and potential for growth. So who am I to say that this way is going to be right for them just because it's right for me? Just like that crate was not a good option for Sterling, but that crate feels safe and secure and warm and cozy to Jadis. So if you've been struggling with being on a particular path and wishing everyone would lock arms with you and go down that path, let go of your egoic need to feel like your way is the right way for everybody too. Because what may look really confining to someone else may be their sweet spot. And that's what it's all about, right? It's just figuring out what our sweet spot is.